Everest isn't supposed to have a line, yet there it is, a human tail snaking along a knife-edge ridge, every breath a bargain, every minute ticking down like a fuse. One perfect photo made that line famous in 2019, but the truth behind it never left. Compressed weather windows, record permits, and a summit fever that refuses to cool have turned the top of the world into a waiting room where oxygen runs out and judgment goes dark. 2023 was one of the deadliest climbing seasons in Everest's history. 2024 was better, but only by degrees. And this season, the rules are changing, the fees are rising, but the mountain isn't getting any kinder. This isn't a story about a peak. It's a story about the people holding the rope, and why more of them are letting go. But the backbone of Everest isn't the crowd you see in those photos. It's the people you rarely hear speaking on camera. Sherpa isn't a job title. They are people, families rooted for centuries in thin air, fluent in terrain that breaks most of us at base camp. Scientists talk about alleles and oxygen pathways. Climbers talk about the way a Sherpa can spot trouble in your eyes before you feel it in your skull. That edge isn't magic, it's adaptation. Generations at altitude shaped hearts, blood, and lungs to treat low oxygen like a bad habit. They can ignore longer than anyone else. That's why when the weather flips or your mind fogs, a Sherpa guide can keep you moving, drinking, turning around when pride says push. They do more than lead. They load. They fix rope up the Lhotse face, thread ladders across the Khumbu icefall, and shoulder oxygen for clients who couldn't last an hour at 8,000 meters without it. The icefall doctors, specialist teams who install and maintain that aluminum spiderweb through a living, shifting maze, start working long before most clients see the mountain. And when ice moves the wrong way, they're the ones standing in the path. You know the disaster years by heart. 2014's avalanche that tore through the icefall and took 16 Nepali workers at dawn, the earthquake season after that. The point is simple. Everest is only doable because a small number of people make it so trip after trip. But if they're the reason Everest works, how is the money actually working for them? On paper, Everest looks like a tourism miracle. Clients paying car-level money, $40,000 to $60,000 for a standard spot, well into six figures for boutique logistics, and a local industry humming in the Khumbu. Scratch the surface and you hit a knot. A climbing season is short. The window lands between March and May. That means most high-altitude workers get one real shot a year. An experienced climbing Sherpa with a reputable operator might earn in the mid-4 to low-5 figures for the season, plus variable summit bonuses and tips. It's a good income by national averages, but the risk is brutal, the insurance is limited, and the gear isn't free. Ladders aren't the only metal the mountain eats. Crampons, down suits, masks, regulators, radios. Replace enough of it and your paycheck thins fast. Then there are the fees clients never see. The Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee gets paid to fix and maintain the Khumbu route. Each foreign climber leaves a trash deposit, refunded only if you haul out a set weight. And because base camp was turning into a small city with a big hygiene problem, new rules require carrying out your own waste above camp. It isn't glamorous, it is necessary. You can raise permit fees, you can mandate poop bags, but none of that changes the core math for the people breaking trail in the dark. They're still the ones crossing the icefall multiple times while clients wait for a safe weather call. And they're the ones most exposed when it's wrong. And when the safe weather call squeezes into a single day, the whole mountain jams. Everest has a cruel habit. It can be wide open for weeks, then slam shut until a few hours sing. When those hours land, everybody goes. That's how you get a record day like May 23rd, 2019, hundreds moving toward a candy bar-wide summit ridge, climbers stacked at fixed lines, oxygen ticking down like phone batteries at 2%. The death zone isn't a nickname. Stay long enough at that altitude, even on oxygen, and your body starts cashing checks it can't cover. Vision narrows, balance goes weird, decision-making glitches in tiny, deadly ways. It's not the steepest place on Earth. It might be the most unforgiving. What catches people out isn't one bad call, it's a chain. A late start, a slow queue, an extra hour at 8,700 meters, a regulator that frosts, a mast strap that cracks. Success rates have improved over decades thanks to better forecasting, better gear, and the professionalism of Nepali teams. But 2023 was a reminder that more summits don't guarantee fewer funerals. Meanwhile, a quiet arms race in pre-acclimatization and high-flow oxygen tries to buy margin where none exists. Some operators shorten trips with at-home hypoxic training. Others chase speed. Whispers about exotic pre-acclimatization methods add fuel to a debate that's already white-hot. At what point do we stop climbing a mountain and start gaming it? And in the middle of that debate sits a story that cracked the internet in half. Near the roof of the world in 2023, a Sherpa guide found a climber barely there, shaking, delirious, strapped to a fixed rope like a lifeline he couldn't use. Turning around meant sacrificing his paying client's summit. He turned around anyway. Then he did what almost no one can do at that height. He shouldered the man and hauled him down from roughly 8,000 meters, step by step, for hours, into air that wouldn't kill him. Nepali officials called rescues at that altitude almost impossible, which is exactly why this one lit up headlines around the world. But the celebration curdled fast. The rescued climber's early interviews thanked sponsors before the person who carried him, and the internet erupted. Within days, outlets chronicled the backlash and the belated acknowledgments. The incident morphed into a symbol. We praise records and selfies, while the people who make those records possible fade into the caption. This spring, the story flipped and the debate got uglier. In May 2025, Indian climber Subrata Ghosh died just below the Hillary Step on descent. His guide, Palchinta Mang, later said he stayed for hours trying to move a disoriented Ghosh, but was spent himself, hallucinating, frostbitten, and running out of oxygen, before he staggered back to Camp 4. Expedition organizers said Ghosh had reached the summit late. Weather was deteriorating, and retrieval at that height was uncertain. Some reports quoted the operator saying Ghosh refused to descend. Was the Sherpa's retreat abandonment, or the only survivable decision left when everyone's minutes were numbered? The argument split timelines and tent circles alike. Inside base camp, that story wasn't a shock. It was a mirror. Ask around and you hear the same quiet plea. Respect the mountain, respect the workers, respect the turnaround time when the call is no. Because the alternative isn't just a failed summit. It's a disaster you force other people to clean up. And cleaning up doesn't only mean people, it means everything we leave behind. Everest isn't static. Ice flows shift, serhaks shear. The Khumbu icefall, the notorious ladder and rope maze between base camp and the western Khum, moves like a slow river with landmines. Warmer springs and stranger storms haven't helped. In some seasons, the safest line through the icefall changes by the week. That's why talks about alternative routes flare up every few years, and why moving base camp was briefly on the table before officials hit pause. It's also why the icefall docks start earlier, stay longer, and take risks that clients never see. The mountain is literally different each season. If you're not there in January and February, it's easy to miss just how much. Weather windows feel tighter now. Cyclonic remnants sweep moisture into May. Winds snap open and shut like a book. For a guided industry built on predictability, on carving a 2-month plan into one perfect day, that's a problem money can't solve. It's logistics as Russian roulette. And those logistics depend on a workforce that's rewriting its own future. Talk to veteran Sherpa climbers and a pattern emerges. Pride in the craft, love for the valley, and a hard question for their kids. Do you need to do this? A generation ago, guiding was the clearest path to a good life in the Khumbu. Today, education has opened doors. Construction, hospitality, overseas work, even professional climbing, as athletes rather than anonymous load carriers. Those options are real. Some of the best guides in history now say the pipeline is thinning. In 10 to 15 years, one legend warned, there will be fewer Sherpas to guide. Not none, fewer, enough to matter. Can policy slow that shift? Nepal's Supreme Court told the government to cap permits and consider mountain carrying capacity. The permit itself is going up to $15,000 per foreign climber in 2025. Better oversight, better pay, better insurance, those help. But talk to the people on the ropes and they'll tell you the truth. The job is still months of risk for one season's pay, and the riskiest work falls on those with the least power to say no. If the best of them choose safer careers, the industry loses not just bodies, but judgment earned over 10, 20, 30 summits. That judgment is the margin between a tough day and a tragedy. So, where does that leave Everest and the dream that built an entire valley around it? The 2025 spring push is over. Teams struck camp by early June after a windy stop-start window that forced tight summit timings and a flurry of evacuations. Postseason write-ups are in, and the consensus is clear. Short, fickle weather windows continue to compress traffic into the same narrow hours. Now, the decisions move off the mountain. Nepal has confirmed a permit hike taking effect September 2025. Everest's spring fee rises from $11,000 to $15,000, a revenue move pitched as part safety, part stewardship. It won't touch the season that just ended, but it will shape how operators price and plan the next one. Not only that, but a wave of rule changes is rolling through. Waste mandates, base camp controls, helicopter restrictions, talk of prerequisite 7,000-meter ascents before you get a shot at the big one. China's north side access ebbs and flows, pushing more climbers onto the south when it closes. To distract from crowding, Nepal just opened nearly 100 lesser-known peaks with no permit fees, hoping to spread demand. Will it work? Maybe on the margins. But crowds aren't really the core problem. Skill is, experience is, humility is, and the supply of elite workers, the people who can fix a line and born in darkness and tell a client, "We turn back now," without flinching, that supply is finite. If you love Everest, you don't pretend it's a theme park. You ask harder questions. Do we value time on task over Instagram? Do we incentivize patience and penalties for pushing into weather? Do we treat Sherpa guides like subcontractors, replaceable, or like the professionals they are, with real say in the go, no go call? Because the mountain isn't negotiating. Only people are. Everest will always draw us. We're wired for it. The big idea, the thin line, the improbable sunrise at 8,848 meters. But the summit isn't a trophy you buy and collect. It's the end of a chain that starts in a valley where kids learn to tie knots before they can tie ties, where parents decide whether another season of risk is worth one more school fee, where a handful of people, quietly, decide how much of themselves to leave in the icefall so a stranger can stand on top of the world. If the crowds keep growing and the experts walk away, the math gets simple and ugly. The question isn't, can Everest be climbed? It's, who's still willing to carry the mountain on their back while everyone else takes the photo? That's the line worth thinking about long after this video ends.